China is a nation home to nearly 1.4 billion people and to the second largest economy in the world. It differs in many ways from its contemporaries in the West and often comes under scrutiny for its controversial actions. Human rights violations and religious persecution are just the tip of the spear when it comes to what China has done. However, one of its more interesting policies has been the Chinese government's proposed social credit system. It is essentially a state-sponsored form of karma that rewards good behavior and punishes bad behavior as stated by the government, to be enforced through technology. The system has not yet been rolled out on a national, centralized level, but has been implemented by local governments and private companies. As scary as that may sound, there are actually several misconceptions in the West and America regarding this system, especially about its public perception in China. A system like this could be very beneficial in the right hands. It could incentivize public order and positive morality. The benefits may be lower crime rates and increase people's quality of life. However, I don't think this kind of system could be in worse hands than in the government of China's. There's no doubt that there are upsides, but are they worth the potentially dark road a system like this leads down? I disagree, and I will explain why. In order to understand what the social credit system is and what it was intended for, we must first understand how it came about. In 2007, the Chinese government devised a way to incentivize public trust by monitoring the positive or negative actions of its citizens as enforced by technology. In 2014, the government announced her ambitions with the project, stating that by 2020, they'd want to roll it out. Although it is not as concrete as of now, plans have been made and steps have been taken to make the social credit system a reality, such as massively increasing the number of surveillance cameras in China from last year to this year. So far, only local governments and businesses have used this system, but the Chinese government plans to make it nationwide. I touched briefly upon the punishment and reward aspect the Chinese government is using with this system. Good behavior includes donating to charity, praising the government, and helping the poor. Bad behavior includes bad driving, jaywalking, not paying bills, and posting anti-government messages on social media. Rewards include getting jobs or promotions, priority status for school admissions, easier access to bank loans and tax breaks. Punishments include banning you from flying or getting on a train, slower internet speed, lower chance of getting into good schools, and keeping you out of the best hotels. While many of these are controversial and clearly have an ulterior motive, such as the ones regarding government and free speech, others don't seem that bad. However, the methods of implementing such a system could be dangerous on its own. Now that the system has been fully explained, I want to talk about how it is viewed. It is no secret that the West and America hate this system and see it as Black Mirror incarnate. There are no shortage of articles that reflect this opinion and paint the system in an almost entirely negative light. Even the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, called this sort of system Orwellian, which goes to show the worries and fears held by the United States and others. However, a survey among Chinese citizens, which was taken with confidence that the participants did not fear government reprisals for their opinions, showed something else entirely. Overall, the Chinese citizens who dealt with the system at the local level or through companies claimed that they actually liked it. They didn't see it as dystopian, but as a quality of life improvement and as a solution for the lack of trust in Chinese society as a whole. It didn't matter from what background they came from, as the majority agreed with the nationalized, centralized social credit system. Sure, their opinions could be tainted by their government, but the people who this system affects seem to want it. Even though there are many misconceptions about this system, especially in the West, I still don't believe this is a good idea for China or for anyone. However, there are upsides, and the two major ones are morality and quality of life. There are more, but they're more insignificant and not worth mentioning. These are the reasons why Chinese citizens apparently like the system. Firstly, a system like this done right could actually be a good thing for society, incentivizing people to be good and morally upright. Citizens under the local versions of the system have noticed that people's behavior has been getting better and better. This potentially means lower crime rates and greater public safety. Not to mention, on paper, it will create a society full of good, selfless people. So technically, a better society can be created through the use of this system. However, while this argument seems to hold weight at first, there are many logical and ethical flaws. Firstly, a society built upon good morals that are enforced doesn't mean it is a good society. For example, don't values like righteousness, respect, benevolence, honor, and loyalty seem like great morals for a society to be built upon? These are the values of Bushido, used and enforced strongly by Japan until 1945. It was this Japan with these values that attacked Pearl Harbor and massacred Nanking. Secondly, who controls what values guide the system? If it is the government, then certainly there must be a hidden agenda promoting values that benefit them and increase their power. Thirdly, is it even good to make people be good? Punishing someone for doing something that is even relatively harmless sounds like the opposite of freedom, which some would value more highly. Even freedom of speech is threatened, as criticizing the government on social media will lower your score. The second argument emphasizes that it isn't just other citizens' behavior that makes the system appealing to the Chinese populace. The rewards offered by the system have also made life easier for a lot of Chinese citizens. They can check into hotels and buy plane tickets faster if they are well rated on the scale. This is why even wealthier Chinese citizens approve of this system. Rewarding good behavior could be the next step in true justice, not only in punishing the bad, but in incentivizing the good. While admittedly this is a difficult argument to counter, it is not perfect. Citizens could be led astray by being rewarded for going along with the government, as well as being punished for going against the government. Protests come to mind, which are pretty infamous in China, with citizens being punished for standing up for their beliefs. The social credit system has a few benefits, but the downsides far outweigh all of them. If I tried to talk about all of them, this video would be 2 hours long, so I'm just going to stick to the most pressing ones. A big thing citizens of China will lose to this system is privacy. Privacy is already something that is under threat, even in the United States, by companies who use your personal data or the government that collects it, like the NSA. However, the social credit system pushes it to a level never before seen on any society on Earth. The system will use modern technology such as cameras with facial recognition and software that tracks your. Even Chinese dating apps will display scores of users on their profiles. Also, those with low scores will be subject to public humiliation by the government, including having your face placed on a billboard or on ads on the internet. Another major concern would be using the system to control the population. With almost no boundaries, this system could be used as a form of state-sponsored terror if in the wrong hands. I don't think the system will have these intentions early on, like many people do, but over time it would be hard for the government of China, which is already repressive enough, to resist the temptation. This could spell a dystopian future for China, with the government using the system to constantly watch its citizens. Images of Black Mirror in 1984 come to mind, as it would be very, very similar. Just a few of the applications include oppressing minority groups, which China already dislikes, silencing any form of criticism, enforcing new laws, crushing protests, and making arrests, whether they be lawful or otherwise. Even in the most oppressive states, this level of control has never been seen. My final great concern is the lack of freedom that this society would promote. Even though Chinese society has a huge lack of trust right now, I don't think it's worth replacing it with something potentially worse. And I don't think that this is a potential outcome either, as the systems are in place to make this happen already. Some of the punishments and rewards sound silly, but others are very serious. Imagine jaywalking across the street or saying one bad thing about the government online, and because of that, your kid might lose the chance of getting into a top college. These kinds of punishments could be life-changing and could force people to be on edge constantly. Add to that the fact that the system is very secretive and that many Chinese citizens barely know about it, and it would create rumors that could cause mass fear. People and society itself would be restricted in what they could do or say, forcing people to behave like robots all the time. You may ask why this even matters. Why should we care about this new system in China when so much controversy has already come out of the country that barely affects us? While it is true that China has done things bad before, this is different. Not only is it a fundamental change to their society, but it sets a precedent. Similar countries may soon start to adopt similar systems. However, the big picture is so much more than that. This is something that humanity has never seen the likes of before, meaning that it is completely uncharted territory. So it is important to examine the social system so we can learn from it. Even so, you may think it unlikely that something like this could ever be a part of your life in the United States. However, you would be wrong. The Patriot Act and NSA spying has already shown the American government has the capability and capacity to implement something like this. China has just taken the next step and applied these technologies to all aspects of life, regulating human behavior and morality. Still, so much remains a mystery as the social credit system is yet to be implemented nationwide in China. Even after it is, I doubt that we will know everything about it, seeing how secretive China is. Nonetheless, it is a bad idea, good intentions or not. It is a tool that by its very nature violates the Fourth Amendment of our Constitution. We must be vigilant lest a system similar is put in place in the United States, no matter the pretense.